All right, so we just gonna trim these ribs up a little bit. You know, ain't gonna go too crazy. Everybody done trimmed some meat before, so you just kind of, get the loose ends off. Anything that you don't want on there, you can take it off. Most people go crazy. Me, I don't suggest that. I suggest just, cutting a little bit off now, and anything you don't want on there, after you cook it, cut it off. And that way, if you don't want it, you can throw it away, or you can give it to the dog, or you can put it in some beans, you know, and make your beans have some smoky flavor, you know. But yeah, to me, if you buy all that meat, everything is just too high to be wasting all that meat unless you're going into competition. You don't have to trim all your meat and make it all squared off and stuff. It's still gonna cook, man. As long as you get that smoker hot enough, the render, the fat, you gotta cook it hot enough, at least 250. To render the fat, then you're good to go. You just gotta leave it on there long enough to render that fat. Now, if it's a big hunk of fat like that's on a brisket and a mohawk, yeah, you gotta cut that off. Yes, sir. Just a little FYI. But yeah, I didn't go too crazy on these ribs. I just trimmed a little bit off. You'll see in a minute. I'll show the camera and put some seasoning on and got them out there on the smoker. Yes, sir. Because they spare ribs, they got to cook about 5 or 6 hours. So, yeah, it's fall and the days are short and it gets dark fast. So you had to try to hurry up and get these things out there. That's why I was kind of in a hurry. When trimming them up, I didn't go too crazy. And you might say, Uncle B, what about the membrane? You take your membrane off? Well, I'll say I've only taken the membrane off one time. One time in all my many times of cooking ribs. I've only taken the membrane off one time to see what it was like. And yeah, that'll tell you something. I've never done it again. Because if you cook the membrane down, well, if you cook your ribs right, you ain't got to worry about the membrane. The membrane is going to cook down and it's going to melt in your mouth just like everything else. That membrane will help hold that meat on the bone. You take your membrane off and you cook your ribs like you're supposed to, guess what's going to happen? When you pick that rib up, you're going to have a bone in your hand and the meat on the floor. Yes, sir. Yeah, so I recommend leaving that membrane on. That way it make everything stay on the bone. You know what I'm talking about? So, when you pick that meat up, you won't be feeding the dogs. And you're gonna be mad at yourself when you drop that big old pretty piece of meat off that bone and it land on the floor and old Roscoe pick it up. You know, that's what I would avoid. But yeah, back to the ribs. Yeah, we just getting these things, trimmed up a little bit. I'm not gonna shape them up. If you see all of that extra meat on there, look at there. I just trimmed a little bit of fat off, and that's it. Didn't go too crazy. I'm gonna leave all that extra meat on there, and we're gonna get the seasoning things up. You know, and I like to start with my salt. That way, I know how much salt I got on my meat, and plus the salt will already start penetrating the meat first. So I like to start with my salt, and it's kind of like a guide coat. You know, because you can see the seasoning salt, especially if you're using Lowry's, you can see how much salt you got on your meat. And that's what that is right there. That's just regular old Lowry's, not rub, just regular old Lowry's. So I put that on there first, and then I come back with my garlic powder, usually, or sometimes garlic salt. It depends on what I'm using. And then some, course, 18 mesh pepper. You know, that's what I like to use. And that's it. Salt, pepper, garlic is a basis of all your meat. In case you don't know, whether you're fixing chicken, pork, beef, it doesn't matter. Salt, pepper, and garlic. That's your main line. And then you can spruce it up with anything else like that paprika right there. I like to put that on there. It gives a little extra flavor, and mainly for color. You know, a lot of rubs have a lot of paprika in it. That's why it's red, because it's got a lot of paprika in it. So, but yeah, that gives you color, and then yeah, a little bit of black pepper on there, and that's about it. And yeah, you keep it simple. Everybody overthinks barbecuing and smoking meat. Keep it simple. You know, salt, pepper, garlic. That's plenty on meat. It doesn't matter what it is. Put it out there and let the smoker do the rest. Don't spray it. Don't mop it. You know, you just keep that temperature. But, you know, you got to have a hot enough temperature to render fat, and that's the key. You know, once you get a hot enough temperature to render fat, you know, which is usually, like I say, anything over 225 degrees, it's going to render fat. It's going to take a little longer because that's kind of on the low side. So a lot of people like to cook it up a little higher, maybe 250, 275, and you're going to render that fat. Once you render fat, you won't have to spray, mop, spritz, or anything on your meat because it's going to sweat. It's going to do what I call talk to you. And I'm going to show you in a minute on that smoker. It's going to be talking to me, you know. And when that meat start talking to you, you know, you got to talk back. You know, you give it an answer. You know, it'll tell you everything it needs. If it needs to get hotter, it'll tell you it needs to get hotter. If it needs to cool down, like I say, when it's sweating, it'll cool down, you know. And when it's ready to wrap up, you know, it'll talk to you then too. You know, it'll tell you. You just got to know what to look for, you know. And that's all a part of learning how to be a pit master. Yes, sir. And when you get out there and do it enough times, you'll become a pit master. But yeah, we just got the salt, pepper, and garlic on here. Both sides. We're doing the other side now. We're gonna get them out here on tank. Oh yeah, you gotta give your smoker a name too. You know, you just can't say I'm gonna throw them out here on the smoker. You gotta name your tank Jezebel, or you know, something, female name or male name. You know, and it makes everything a whole experience. You know, it's a lifestyle when you're smoking meat, y'all. So yeah, and I love it. But yeah, we're gonna get these big old things out here on the smoker, and we're gonna let them rock and roll. Yes, sir. Yeah, we just paint them. That's all you do. You try to get you an even coat of seasoning, and it's better, y'all. Don't get me wrong. I'm just being lazy today because I was at home by myself that day. The wife was gone, and I was home alone, so I decided to just put them in the sink, rinse them off, let them drain in the sink, and then I trimmed them up and seasoned them in the sink so that way I won't have to wash no dishes. You know, just a little FYI. You want to keep it simple, you got a stainless steel sink. You clean your sink out real good. You know, you wash your meat out in your sink. Then you clean your sink out again real good. If you got stainless steel, you can scrub it, rub it, everything how you need to do it, sanitize it, and everything's back to normal. Yes, sir. And you ain't got no dishes to wash. You just wash out the sink. Yeah, keeping it simple. That's what Uncle B like to do. I like to keep it simple. But yeah, that's it. You see it. We ain't doing nothing special to them. Just putting a little seasoning on all the meat. And we're going to try to get a little smoke on all the meat. And that's what makes for flavorful barbecue. With no sauce, because I don't like sauce. I don't put no sauce on my meat. I don't put no spritz on my meat. I just let the smoker do what it do. Yes, sir. And here we are. We just dumped the chimney out. And yeah, we're about to rock like it's hot. We gonna get it hot. Start out with them 2 or 3 stumps. You know, depends on how hot it is outside. You know, if it's real warm outside, you probably can get away with 1 stump. If it's cold outside, you're gonna need a little more fuel on the fire to get that thing hot, especially starting out. Once your steel gets hot, you know, then you can probably use less, but you gotta always remember, maintain a good coal bed. Yeah, that's very crucial. You have to maintain that cold bed in order to produce a good product. So yeah, we usually do the 1-2-1 method or the 3-2-3 method. And what I mean by that is you run one log, then you come back out there and you put two on. Then you put one log again, then you come back out there and put two on. That's the 1-2-1 method. And then with the other method, the 2-3 method, you start out with 3 logs and you kind of cross them up. You put 2 down and then you put the 1 across the 2. And then you come back out there next time and you put 2 on. And you come back out there again, you put 3 on. And that's the way I run my smoker usually. Just depends on how hot or cold it is outside, whether I run the 1-2 method or the 2-3 method. Yes, sir. But yeah, we just gonna let this thing get hot. And once it gets up to temperature, it'll probably get up to about 275 and then come back down to about 250 with those 3 logs on there in that cold bed. But yeah, once it gets to that temperature right there, I clean my grates off and bring them out there, and we gonna get them on. And yeah, that's another thing too, people. You gotta keep your grates clean too. You don't want to put your meat on dirty grates, like I say some people do. You gotta maintain your smoker. Yes, sir. That's very important too. But yeah, let's get them on out here. Put them on, because I think we're sitting at about 250. Got us some good smoke rolling. And we just gonna put them on here. And I like to put mine on with the thick side towards the hot side. So yeah, you put the thick side of the rib towards the firebox. And yep, we let them rock. Just like that right there for about 5 hours right there in that spot right there. We don't move them. Don't spray them. Don't touch them. Matter of fact, if I wasn't making a video, I wouldn't even bring my lid up on the cook chamber until maybe 3 or 4 hours in. Then they might get a check. Oh yeah, get them a little pat. You gotta give your meat a massage too. You know, give it a little massage and massage that seasoning or that rub in that meat. And yeah, we ready to go. Yes, sir. And yeah, you let the smoker do what it do. Don't do no spritzing, no mopping, no spraying. Just try it one time. If you spray your meat, just try it without one time and keep it at 250 to 275, no higher, and see what it do. Let me know what you think. 4 hours, no wrap, 1 hour with the wrap. That's just how I'm gonna cook these ribs right here. And let me know how they turn out, y'all. You let me know in your comment section and let me know. But yeah, we just gonna let them do their thing on the smoker. And when the fat starts to render, like I say, that's when they talking. And I'm gonna let you know. See right here? Look at that. It's starting to render right there. That's no spray, no mop. That fat that's in between, you see it's still white right now. When you know your smoker is doing its job is when that white fat, it turns golden. Just like it's doing right there on the backside. You can see it a little bit on the backside right there. That's when you know that the fat is starting to render. When the fat is still white, it's not rendering. You need to kick your heat up maybe another 25 degrees. Yes, sir. That's after you can caught some smoke. You gotta let your meat smoke first, and then you kick the heat up. But yeah, see, that's a good render. Look at that. It's good and rendered. Starting to turn gold. You don't have to spray your meat if you keep the right temperature. You just keep the right temperature, and the meat will spray itself just like you do. And you see it right there. That meat looks like I sprayed it, but I didn't. That's just the fat rendering. And it does the same thing on your smoker as it does on mine if you keep the temperature between 225 and 275. That is the key. You want to keep it hot enough to render the fat, but not too hot to evaporate what you're rendering. Yep. So try to keep it under 275. But yeah, we right here. We're about 4 hours in, I think, right here. And you can see the fat rendering. You know, some of it starting to look like it's trying to dry out. But don't worry about that, because when you wrap them up and you start to steam them when you wrap them, all of that rendered yellow, golden colored fat that you see right there, it's going to render all over that meat when it steams in that foil. So, yeah, don't worry about it when it starts to look dry on you. Just don't spray it. Just try it one time, and see what it do. But yeah, I think we at the almost time to wrap these boys up now. We about at the 5 hour mark right here. And they got good color on them. Got little barks forming on them. And golden fat. Yeah, right there. That's the look you want. You see how gold that fat is? When you see that fat golden right there, that means that meat is smoked to perfection. When you see that fat turn gold, when it's white still, yeah, it can take a little more smoke. But when you see golden fat right there, that's when you know you're gonna have that Uncle B's signature smoke ring on there. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's time to wrap them up when you see that right there. And you wrap them up and bring them back out here and put them on for about another hour at 250. And then you bring them in and let them rest for about 30 minutes to an hour. And you unwrap them, and there you go. Look at that. I didn't take the flap off the back or anything. And yeah, we got bark, we got juiciness, and yeah, we ready to go. And that's the simplest and the easiest way to cook a spare rib. Just keep it simple.